Hello and welcome to Beyond the Bio. Stay tuned this week for my conversation with Michelle Eagleton, who is an experienced TV and radio presenter with over 20 years background in broadcast journalism, working for national and local media, including BBC Radio Manchester, Key 103, GMTV, BBC Breakfast, and most recently, BBC One's Morning Live. Michelle's career has seen her interview a number of high-profile celebrities, including Sir David Attenborough, Cher and Dame Joan Collins. I want to pick Michelle's brains about how you pitch yourself to producers for these types of shows, how best to prepare, and how to make most of the opportunity afterwards. Let's get stuck in. Michelle, you're on the other side today because you are used to interviewing people. So I love that we're role reversal here and I get to ask you lots of questions. Welcome to Beyond the Bio.
Oh, I'm so pleased to be on this podcast. It is one of my favorites. I learn something new every time that I listen to your podcast, and I've got some great takeaways from it. But yeah, I feel a little bit out of control, Sophie. It's different being on the other side. It's like, what's she going to ask? How am I going to respond?
Well, you know I'm not mean, so there's no awful questions. For anyone listening, can you just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to do what you do? Because it's not something that most people decide they're going to do and just get into it. It's quite a hard industry to get into. So tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Well, I actually started out as an actress. I was born with jazz hands in the air, and my mum put me on the stage from an early age. I was in things like Children's Ward, which was on
I
ITV.
remember Children's Ward. There was a really hot guy in that, wasn't there?
There was
Oh, what
lots
was
of
he
hot
called?
guys, Sophie.
Oh, there was. I can't remember what he was called, but everyone used to fancy him.
Well, Tim Vincent was on it, of course.
Yes, maybe it was him.
Yeah, I think he was quite handsome back in the day. I didn't get to date any of them, so there's no stories there. I was on that show. It was great. I did a bit on Coronation Street. I was in Heartbeat. I was the vicar of Aidensfield daughter in Heartbeat.
Who
So
knew? That's amazing.
I know. So, yeah, I spent my youth like that, and then as the years went on, I thought, "Do you know what? I actually wanna sidestep and do something that's more journalistic, but where do I start?" So, I went to university, did a journalism and broadcasting degree, but at the same time, I was a little bit savvy. I, was in a hospital radio, so got my demo together, and from then on in, it kind of led me to going and working for Key 103, which is now Hits Radio, so local radio, BBC Radio Manchester. And then I up sticks and went to the good old London town and was the entertainment reporter for ITN Radio, which is independent radio news, where I was interviewing the likes of Cher and Sir David
Oh, wow.
Attenborough at his house, no less. I got to visit David's house. I know, madness.
That is so cool. Would you class that as a career highlight?
Definitely. That and interviewing Dame Joan Collins for an audience
Is she a
with
diva?
she is a diva, but in the nicest possible way because you're allowed to be a diva when you're Dame Joan Collins. The only moment that I think I lost it in my entire career was when she walked into the music of Dynasty, and it took me back to being about 12 years old and go, "Du, du, 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 du," and I was like, "Is this really gonna happen?" Luckily, held it together, and she was just amazing. Some incredible stories about meeting Marilyn Monroe, partying with James Dean, Steve McQueen. I mean, she's an icon.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
impressive.
So from then on, I kind of switched it up, moved from radio to TV and worked in local TV and then started doing some national TV. So sat on the sofas of BBC Breakfast. So if you're wanting somebody to talk about X Factor and Britain's Got Talent, then I'm your girl. And BBC Morning Live recently. So I've been doing bits on daytime telly and I absolutely love it because you get to meet so many interesting people with fantastic stories to tell. And I think that's me all over. I just love a good story. And as you can tell, I love a good natter. I'm northern.
You're so good. Yeah, but you're so good at it. Have you got a preference between TV and radio?
I have now. I would say for me, it's TV. I just love the buzz of it. And the thing I love more than anything is the live stuff that I do.
I was about to say, have you got preference between live and pre-recorded?
Absolutely. I think I just get, the buzz and the adrenaline kick of, well, anything could happen. And I'd like that. I thrive on that.
And have you got any stories where something wild has happened, something unexpected?
I've got one of people that I've worked with in the past where something unexpected has happened. And when you're a presenter, well, some people might not know this, you often have an earpiece in on live telly. So you've got all the team, producers, directors in the gallery telling you stuff like, oh, you've got 5 minutes to go on this slot, or, keep talking, the guest hasn't arrived. I worked with a guy who will not be named on a daytime local TV show. And he thought me being blonde, a bit younger than him, and interested in entertainment, that I didn't know a lot. Well, this particular morning, when he had said, "You do the Jade Goody story, I'll handle this crisis." I'd been up all night uncovering it was actually a bomb that had gone off in Mumbai. And I was all over it, across it. He didn't want me to do the story. I'll do the newspapers. And so when it came to it, we're live on air, and he goes, been a tragedy today in Dubai. And I was like, it's Mumbai. It's not Dubai. He held the paper up, and the paper said Mumbai. And he wouldn't, for the life of him, go back on it at all. And all that happened, right, Sophie, was his face just went redder and redder. And the gallery is saying, come on now, you need to repeat that it's not that. No. And he stormed off in the break to the toilet, came
What?
back in a bit of a huff, but I haven't seen him on telly since. Funny that.
Oh dear. Isn't that funny?
But the thing is, when things do go wrong, the analogy of the swan is always there for me. As long as you are graceful on top like a swan is, you could be paddling those feet underneath the water like the swan, but no one will know. So if something is going wrong in your ear, just keep smiling.
That's really good advice. That whole, what people can see and whatever's going on inside, you have to mask it. Have you got any top tips for anyone listening around how you do present that professional and upbeat look?
Yeah, I think it's about trying to seem relaxed. I think it is about not being hunched over, feeling like, you're sitting upright. The body language is open. That really works a lot on TV. I also think as well, if you're about to go and do something on TV or radio, try and listen to the program or watch the program you're going on. It just makes such a difference because, again, you're going to know the style of the presenter. You're going to know how long you've got because a lot of people who go on telly as a guest think, I've got 10, 15 minutes, I can just kind of waffle on. You haven't. So you've got to think about getting your key messages across really quickly because you only get one go.
That's really great advice. It's funny, actually. That's so topical because I was on Wake Up to Money last week. I'm on it every 2 or 3 months as a whole program guest. So you're on it for an hour, but however many questions you get during that hour, it tends to be maybe 5 or 6 throughout the hour because they come to you in different news stories that are relevant. And I was chatting to the producer. You do like a call the day before, and these are the topics. And then because it's live radio, because it's topical, you then log on the next day to do the show, and they're like, yeah, we're not doing that one. We're not doing that one. You're like, so it's all changed. But something that she said to me totally links to what you just said. And I was saying to her, these are the things I'd really like to talk about around my business this time. And she said, you've got to get them in that first question because that's your chance. And if you don't take that, it's harder the further you get into the program. And she said, look out for this particular question. Frustratingly, I didn't get asked that this time, which is very unusual. They normally ask you, how's business going? And she said, right, that's your cue. Just pile it all in there because they'll cut you off if they need to, and you'll read the room to see when that is. So yeah, really interesting just thinking about the time that you've got. And you don't want to be seen as that person that's waffling on because that's not going to create the best impression. When you said about how you present yourself to be confident and all these things, do you think you almost need to go a bit over the top with being sort of smiley? I'm thinking about it when I'm doing a talk and I'm on stage and you've got 300 people in the audience. I always tend to be a bit over the top in those situations because I think if you're not, you come across more flat. Do you think that's the same for TV or?
Absolutely. I think sometimes, you can look a little bit like a rabbit in headlights unless you are doing that over the top. because it's larger than life. It is almost like a performance, isn't it? So for that time, you are that person, you are that expert. You need to get that confidence across as much as you can. And like I say, I think if you can connect with the program or the presenter even beforehand, if you get a chance to just speak to them off camera, that really helps as well because it's going to make you feel a lot more settled. But yeah,
More
it's
rapport, more
more
natural.
rapport, absolutely. Also, it's great if you do have the luxury of speaking to a producer beforehand, because sometimes you don't get that luxury either. But making friends with a producer is something that I would say is really key, because if you've made a good impression on there and, keep that connection, they will keep asking you back. And a lot of people as well miss the opportunity to ask for the footage afterwards or think that they can't. Now that is like gold dust because you then have got your footage that you can put out there on social. You put it out on social, you tag in the program, tag in the presenters, tag in the producers, going to LinkedIn as well. I know we've talked about LinkedIn as a tool. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn since listening to your podcast, and I use it
Good.
very wisely
I think
now,
it's
honestly.
great.
And yeah, go to LinkedIn, talk about your appearance, put the appearance up, but also maybe the camera person, the producer, they never get thanked. The presenter does a lot, but being nice to them again is building that relationship. And that is what you want, because the next time that something comes up and they know it's a topic that you're confident to talk on, they'll get you back.
Yeah, and that definitely happens. That's happened to me before, and I think my tactic around that has always been to make friends with the producer and to be really reliable as well. So to show up early, to be well prepared, to give everything that you can while you're on there, to follow up, to thank them, and just to make it clear that they can get in touch with you and that you respond quickly. Because quite often when it's live TV in particular, if they want you, if you don't reply to that email quickly, they'll go to the next person on their list.
Oh, definitely. If something happens in the showbiz world and it's breaking news, I will get a WhatsApp straight away from a producer, be it kind of one of the BBC local radio stations, or it can be some national TV. Can you comment about it? And I know they are on a deadline. They've come to me. Hopefully, you think that they've come to me first. And it's like, right, okay, can I do this? Right, I need to get back to them. If I can't, I will let them know so that they can get somebody else. But again, it's knowing the right people to get in touch with. I mean, if you are starting off your journey and thinking, right, I do want to get into TV or I want to get into radio, a lot of the times you might think, oh, I'll just look up a contact address for them, contact email, and it'll be news at such and such. Now, don't do that. Please don't do that. It is a waste of time because that is just going to go into this big mailbox that hardly ever gets seen. So look up maybe on something like LinkedIn for that program, look into the people who work on that. And we are looking at producers, forward planners. Those are the ones that you want to be reaching out to just to get that connection, really.
And if it's a big show and there's lots of producers, are you better off going for like what looks like the top producer, or maybe someone that's a bit more junior? Who do you think you'd get the best result from?
I think you would go for a senior producer, actually, because sometimes the junior ones don't make all the decisions. But I would definitely stay away from an editor or deputy editor because the chances are that they are super busy. And again, they're not going to get to your email. So it's not going to get to the right person. But, once you've found the right people, as I say, it's like building their relationship, telling them what topics that you feel that you could comment on. But again, doing your homework to see what they actually cover. There's no point pitching yourself to a program that doesn't even talk about the issues that you want to talk about. And also, once you've made that in with them, you can then follow it up on maybe it's awareness days, maybe there's a date in the diary coming up that your business is kind of linked to, and you feel like you can be that talking head for them. You're going to really help them out at the end of the day, and they're going to value that.
Definitely. So when you're making contact with the producer, do you think it's email but to their named email address, keeping it quite punchy but making it really clear how you can contribute to the show? So showing that you know the show so that the topics you're putting forward are relevant, and just being really punchy around, hey, this is what I can chat about.
Definitely. I think what it is, it's kind of like a few lines about the show itself, and that you watch the show, you really think that you could add value for their audience on these certain things, just give them some bullet points. They haven't got the time, nobody's got time nowadays to have a full on essay. But if you're giving them those edited highlights of this is what I could help on, these are the topics I could cover, if it's somebody that's working on a program at Media City, for instance, if you're Manchester based, flag that. They love that. They've got less travel to pay for. You could be in there straight thing in the morning. They don't have to pay for a hotel for you, Sophie. That's the kind of thing that might get you on there other than somebody else. I know it sounds really minor, but just those little elements about, what you can offer to them. It's about adding
Mm.
value to their program, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's all really sound advice. Thinking about some of the more practical things, if you are booked to go on TV and you're probably quite nervous, especially if you've not done it before, but even if you have done it before, you're probably still nervous. What sorts of things can you do to prepare? So you said there you could watch the show to make sure you watch the show. I guess you'd want to make sure you know how to get there. You're going to be there on time and things. What about things like preparing what to wear? What advice have you got around what looks good on the screen?
Well, definitely no logos. And for a start, if you've got a really good producer on a show, they will say, we don't like any logos. So just stay away from that because, again, it's plugging a company. So even if you're wearing your logo, I think sometimes that can be, especially with the BBC rather than ITV, I think sometimes they can maybe take it along, but take an alternative top just in case, they don't allow that. I always say nice bright colors. I think sometimes patterns and stripes, they can really strobe on television. So stay clear from that. The brighter the better. You wanna kind of stand out really, if you're wearing a dark suit, a black or a gray, just think how that's gonna come across to the viewer. It's about making those choices really, something you feel comfortable in. But again, I think if you have watched the program, you will get an idea of what you're dressing in because all programs are different. You might think that you need to go in there suited and booted, and actually, it's quite casual. If you were gonna go on Sunday brunch, say, with Simon Rimmer on Channel 4, they're very relaxed at the weekend, it's got that nice vibe, so it's not necessarily what you then might be going on Newsnight for. So, there is a
Mm,
difference with what you're
there
wearing,
is.
but I think more than anything, I think you wanna feel comfortable, and also, do take into account they're gonna mic you up. So anything that's got
I've fallen
a
foul of
high
this
neck,
before.
and you've been there, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had people in my bra and all sorts of things.
Yeah,
Yeah, you need easy access for these things.
it
Yeah.
definitely isn't. You think it's all glamorous, and the next minute you've got someone shoving a mic pack down your underwear, which is not brill. But, say you've got a polo neck on, then, that's gonna be quite high up where the mic is. Again, it's always nice if you have got trousers or a skirt because they can hang the mic pack. Sometimes if you've got a dress, they prefer a dress that's got a belt. They can get round
Mm,
situations, but I think the easier that you make it for them and the less stressful than it is for you when you're actually
yeah.
there, the better.
Definitely. I always think jewelry is a bit of a one to watch out for as well, because a friend of mine who goes on TV quite a bit, I remember she was on a show and she had these bracelets on and they kept rattling. And I remember being really distracted watching her with these bracelets. And I just thought, oh, right, I'm going to remember that. No
Yeah.
bracelets.
They may look pretty, but the person who's doing the sound is not gonna like it.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we were just chatting about before we hit record actually was when you start feeling a little bit burnt out, a bit tired, perhaps at this sort of time of year. And obviously, when you're going on TV or radio, you can't let any of that stuff show. You've got to be as with it and as engaging as you are when you feel at your absolute best. When you felt like that and you've had to go on to whatever show, how have you masked that? Like, how do you handle it?
It is really difficult. I have had those times when I've had so much work on that you do feel like you're going to hit a brick wall. I remember one occasion being in a toilet thinking, I don't think I can do this, and I'm going to go out to a crowd of like 500 people and perform. Deep breathing helps. as daft as it sounds, a bit of a shake and getting then your breathing back into normality. It is just the person, I suppose, that you train yourself to become. You do step on that stage and you think, I can get through this. And, you put the face on, and then the crowd lifts you and you're there and you're in that moment. And for, those couple of hours that you might be hosting, you can do it and you get off, and like anybody, you probably feel drained, and I'll go home and not talk to my family. I'll be like, "Yeah, okay, I want to go in a dark room." But I just think it is that I think you've got a job to do, and I'm very lucky to get to do a job that I love, so you have to remember that, and remember that these people, whether it's an event that they've paid for, you know, I am there to entertain them, and same with TV, you've got the viewers at home to think about, so I put my big Bridget Jones pants on, take that deep breath in and think, "Right, come on, bring it."
A lot of mindset stuff in that for sure. Thinking about you being visible in terms of hosting these events, being on all the different shows and things, do you ever think about how you maintain that balance between being publicly visible but maintaining some level of personal privacy? Have you drawn the lines around what falls into what?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, we're in this world where we do have to have that social media persona. So you are sharing your life in some ways on social media, and events that I go to. Again, it's with my work. You want to put stuff out there because it helps, doesn't it? But with family, obviously, my husband, he's an artist, so he's kind of in the public eye, so that's fine, but I do tend to not put my children on there. I think that's my little piece of me. So,
Hmm.
unless I really feel the need to, I think I like to keep that kind of private as much for them as for me. So, and it's nice to have that. So, things like my Facebook, a lot of my friends and family are on there. So again, I'm a lot more personal on that. But I think, there is a certain side that's more work orientated when it comes to Instagram. And I don't do X a lot now. I'm not a big fan of
Yes,
X. It's
it's a
not, it
funny
doesn't seem
place at the
like a
moment.
nice place. And one thing I would say to anybody who is going on TV and radio, don't read the comments after you've been on. I mean, the amount of trolling you can get nowadays, it's not worth it. There are people out there, usually the faceless people, let's just be honest with that will just try to tear you down, whether you've done the most amazing performance. And that will make you feel really bad if you read that because they don't know anything. My daughter had some wise words for me to say because I've had trolling in the past, and that's why I say don't read the comments. And I did this what I thought was a great piece, and I came off and then yeah, I read some comments, and they were describing what I look like, and nitpicking on these things. And she said, "Mum, are they your friends? Do you know them?" I went, "No, I don't know them." She went, "Well, why are you worried? Why are you worried? You were amazing. Everybody else has been texting you to say how amazing you are. Who are they? And who are they?" So please, that's one thing I would say. Enjoy your moment. Take the advice and the comments from the people who know you and love you, or people who are in the industry that can give you great feedback. But those people on social media don't know, you don't need to care about.
See, this is one of the reasons why I actually really like LinkedIn, because I bet if you were to share whatever that event or piece was on LinkedIn, you'd only get positive comments on there. It's rare that you get much grief, I think, on LinkedIn. Yes, you'll get some people that are very controversial with what they say and that, they might attract some more negative or constructive comments. But overall, I think people tend to celebrate success more on LinkedIn, but I can completely see how that would happen on some of the other platforms. And I think, your daughter's very wise to be suggesting that, because why should you care? But the frustration is that most people will see those 100 comments and the 99 will be positive, but it's that one negative one that we dwell on. So actually, don't put yourself in that situation in the first place, maybe.
Definitely not. And yeah, you can dwell on that comment, as you say.
Mm. If anyone listening hasn't done any TV or any radio, but wants to challenge themselves for next year to try and secure their first spot, what would be the starting point that you would recommend for them?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think, build yourself up. Don't necessarily go straight in to try and pitch for BBC Breakfast because that might just scare you to death. I would start off at local radio stations, community radio stations, something where you can build up your confidence. And we are in that age of social media as well. So maybe start doing a few things on social where you're front facing on some pieces. Maybe you are doing a little video that you're going to put to Instagram. That's what I would say. Just to hone in on your craft or feel a little bit more confident with that camera in front of you, with that microphone in front of you. And there are lots of opportunities for community radio stations and, as I say, local radio stations as well. And they're always looking for guests.
Yeah, and do you think once you've got that first one in the bag and you've got a clip for a local radio, for example, do you think it's a good idea for them to use that clip to then pitch for one that's a bit bigger?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. If you have got any footage that you can attach to that email that I said earlier on about pitching yourself to, then that's great. They've got an example of you in action. So that is it. And you are building your portfolio along the way because, at some point you might have enough to do kind of like a reel of your work, like a show reel, be it the TV
Mm.
or the radio type. And there's things like Headliner now, which is like a free app where you can create your own yourself. So you might not want to go and,
Ooh.
get somebody technical in. You can put some audio in there and put some photographic images of you at certain places, at the local radio station, at the local TV station with the audio bubbling underneath. Brilliant. And it looks really professional. So go and check out Headliner.
Oh, we'll pop a link to that in the show notes. I've never heard of that. I'm going to go and check it out. That sounds awesome. Oh, thanks so much for coming on, Michelle. It's been amazing to speak to you, as I knew it would be. If anyone listening isn't connected to you already, where's the best place for them to find you?
Well, go and search me up on social. I am at Michelle Eagleton Official on Instagram. I do a bit of TikTok. I am on
Mm.
X, just about. I'm about to fall off. And I'm on LinkedIn as Michelle Eagleton. I would love to hear from people. As I say, I love a good chat.
We will pop those social links in the show notes as well. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. If you're serious about growing your profile, take our free profile assessment quiz to see where you're at right now and get hints and tips on how to improve your score. You'll find the link to the quiz in the show notes. If you've enjoyed the episode, it would be mint if you'd subscribe, like, and leave a review. See you next Monday.